7 minutes after they lowered my father into the ground, my husband texted me one sentence that made my blood turn cold. "Give me the green key, now." I froze, because I had not told anyone about the key. Pastor Cole had slipped it into my palm less than 30 seconds earlier while pretending to comfort me. He had leaned close, his lips barely moving, and whispered, "Nora, don't ride home with him." Then he pressed the small green key into my hand. "Back room, 10 tonight, side door, your father left you something." Before I could ask what he meant, my phone buzzed. I looked across the cemetery. My husband, Evan, was standing beside my mother with one arm around her shoulders, wearing the sad, gentle face everyone loved. But he wasn't looking at my father's grave. He wasn't looking at my mother. He was looking at my closed fist. Then my phone buzzed again. "I saw what he gave you. Don't make a scene. Give me the key." And behind him, beside the black funeral tent, I heard my mother whisper, "Just get her to sign tomorrow before she falls apart again." My father had been dead for 7 minutes, and they were already planning what I would sign. Before we begin, leave a quick comment below. What are you doing while you listen right now? Driving home, making dinner, working late, lying in bed with one earbud in. Wherever you are, stay with me, because this is not a story about a store. Not really. It is about what happens when a man does not just steal your inheritance. He steals your place at the table. He steals your voice in your own family. And then he smiles while everyone thanks him for saving you. My name is Nora Bennett. My father, Calvin Bennett, owned Bennett Home and Hardware in a small town outside Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was not fancy. It was not rich. It was not the kind of place that impressed people who measured life in square footage and investment returns. It was 3 aisles of paint garden tools, dog food, furnace filters, winter salt bolts, birdseed, and one old coffee pot near the register that had survived 2 floods, 3 power outages, and my father's refusal to buy anything new if the old one still worked. If somebody's water heater broke on Christmas Eve, Dad opened the back door. If a widow couldn't pay her account until Friday, Dad wrote "paid" in the ledger and pretended he had forgotten. If a kid came in needing wood for a school project, Dad cut the cleanest pieces and called them scraps. That store was not just a business. It was my father's heart under fluorescent lights. And for most of my life, I believed that meant it was my heart too, until my father died. And everyone started acting like my husband had inherited him. Evan Markham was the kind of man people trusted before they had a reason. He had clean boots, a contractor's tan-rolled sleeves, a firm handshake, and a calm voice that could make a lie sound like a responsible decision. He sold houses. He flipped old properties. He knew how to walk into a room full of tired people and make them feel rescued. When he first came into our family, he didn't act like a man chasing money. That would have been too obvious. He acted like a man chasing belonging. He helped Dad unload mulch at sunrise. He fixed my mother's porch railing without being asked. He brought coffee to the store and joked with the retired men who gathered by the paint counter every morning. He learned which customers liked to talk and which ones wanted to be left alone. He called my mother Ruthie in that warm son-in-law voice that made her smile even when she pretended to be annoyed. Everybody loved Evan. My mother once told me, "Nora, don't mess this up. Men like Evan don't come around twice." My younger sister Kelsey said, "Honestly, he's the best thing that ever happened to this family." Back then I laughed. I thought they were teasing. I didn't understand they meant it. I didn't understand that little by little, Evan was becoming the son my father never asked for, the leader my mother wanted, the steady man my sister bragged about online. And I was becoming smaller, the emotional daughter, the anxious wife, the forgetful one, the one who cried too easily, the one who couldn't handle pressure, the one who needed Evan to speak for her. At Dad's funeral, I barely recognized my own family. My mother sat in the front row, twisting a tissue in her hands. Kelsey sat beside her with her husband, whispering and glancing at me like they were waiting for me to embarrass them. Every time someone came to hug me, Evan answered for me. "She's exhausted. She hasn't slept. She's not herself. She's taking this very hard." People nodded with pity. No one asked me if it was true. And the worst part was, I had started to believe him. For months I had been tired, foggy, embarrassed by how often I forgot things. I missed appointments. I burned dinner. I cried in the grocery store because I couldn't remember what brand of soup Dad liked. Evan said grief did strange things to women. He said stress could turn your own mind against you. He said I needed rest. He said I needed him to carry the heavy things. So I let him. And slowly he carried everything. The bills, the store accounts, Dad's medical appointments, my phone plan, my car insurance, even my conversations with my own mother. By the time Dad died, Evan had become the bridge between me and my family. And I was too tired to notice he was charging a toll on both sides. Pastor Cole's voice trembled during the graveside prayer. He had known my father since high school. They used to fish together before Dad's knees went bad. Pastor Cole was not a dramatic man. He was the kind of man who kept peppermint candies in his pocket and remembered every child's birthday. But when he came to me after the final prayer, his hand was shaking. "Nora," he said softly, taking my hand in both of his. "Your father loved you more than he ever knew how to say." I nodded because I had no words left. Then he leaned closer. "Don't ride home with him." The green key pressed into my palm. "Back room, 10 tonight, side door. Your father left you something." Then he stepped away before I could answer. My phone buzzed immediately. "Give me the green key. Now." My heart stopped. I looked up. Evan stood beside my mother, phone in hand. His face still looked gentle, but his eyes were hard. Another text appeared. "I saw what he gave you. Don't make a scene." For 4 years, I had explained away that feeling in my stomach. I told myself Evan was protective. I told myself he checked my location because he worried. I told myself he read my messages because married people should not have secrets. I told myself he answered my mother's calls because I was overwhelmed. But standing beside my father's grave, I finally understood. Protection does not feel like fear. Love does not need surveillance. And a husband watching your hand at your father's funeral is not grieving with you. He is guarding something. I slipped the key into the lining of my coat pocket. Evan moved toward me. "There you are," he said loudly, smiling for everyone else. I was worried. His hand landed on my lower back. I flinched. His smile tightened. "Come on, sweetheart, we need to get you home." "I'm riding with Mom," I said. My mother looked surprised. "Oh, honey, Evan already said." "I'm riding with Mom." For 1 second, nobody moved. Rain dotted Evan's black suit. His hand stayed on my back, but his fingers pressed harder. "Nora," he said softly, "this is not the day to make things difficult." Such a small sentence. So calm. So reasonable. But I heard what lived underneath it. "Behave." Then my mother leaned toward Evan and whispered, "Just get her to sign tomorrow before she falls apart again." Sign? Sign what? The dirt on my father's grave was still wet. My father's flowers had not even started to wilt. And my family was already talking about my signature. "I need a minute," I said. Evan's hand tightened. I stepped away before he could stop me. I walked past the cemetery office, around the side of the building, down the gravel path, and out toward the street. My phone started ringing before I reached the sidewalk. "Evan." I declined. He called again. I turned off my location. For the first time in 4 years, I turned off my location. His texts came so fast they stacked on top of each other. "Where are you? Turn your location back on. You're scaring your mother." "This is exactly what I mean, Nora. You're not thinking clearly." Then one more. "You don't want people seeing you like this." That sentence almost made me turn around. Almost. Because for years, Evan had trained me to fear embarrassment more than danger. But this time I kept walking. By the time I reached the old laundromat 2 blocks away, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely call a cab. The driver asked where I wanted to go. I gave him the address of the public library. Then halfway there, I saw Evan's truck turn onto the main road behind us. Black pickup, headlights on. "Too close." "Actually," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you turn left here?" The driver glanced in the mirror. "Everything okay?" "Number." He didn't ask another question. He turned left. Then right. Then cut through the parking lot of a closed tire shop and came out near Route 30. Evan's truck missed the turn. For a few minutes, I couldn't breathe. I spent the next 6 hours in places Evan would never think to look for me. The public library. A diner with cracked red booths. The back corner of a Dollar General parking lot where I sat in the cab, staring at the green key until the driver said, "Ma'am, I can call someone if you need help." I almost laughed. Because that was the problem. Everyone I could call had already chosen Evan. At 9:47 that night, I stood behind Bennett Home and Hardware in the rain. The store looked smaller in the dark. The red sign buzzed faintly. The front window still had the display Dad had arranged before he got sick. Snow shovels, birdseed furnace filters. and a handwritten sign that said, "We still cut keys. Ask for Cal." Someone had crossed out Cal and written Evan underneath. That nearly broke me. Not because it was big, because it was small, because that was how Evan took things. Not with one loud theft, with little corrections, little replacements, little moments where my father's name disappeared and Evan's appeared in its place. I pressed the green key into the side door. It turned. Inside the store smelled like sawdust, cardboard, motor oil, cinnamon gum, and old coffee. Dad's smell. I stood there in the dark and finally cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just one hand over my mouth, shoulders shaking, trying not to make a sound in the store that had heard every version of my childhood. I cried because Dad would never stand behind the counter again. I cried because I had spent the last 3 months begging Evan to take me to him, and Evan kept saying Dad was too tired for visitors. I cried because I remembered Dad grabbing my wrist 2 weeks before he died. "Nora," he whispered. Then Evan walked in with a mug of tea and said, "Let him rest." I let go. Dad never finished the sentence. Now Pastor Cole's words echoed in my head. Back room, 10 tonight. Side door, come alone. I walked past the paint counter, past the register, past the bulletin board where Dad used to hang Little League photos, church flyers, lost dog notices, and thank you cards from customers. The back room door was open. A single lamp glowed on the old workbench, and sitting beside it was Mrs. Helen Whitaker, my father's bookkeeper for 27 years. She was 72, tiny, silver-haired, wearing a yellow raincoat, and the expression of a woman who had been waiting too long. "Nora," she said. My knees almost gave out. "Mrs. Whitaker." She stood and pulled me into her arms. I had not been hugged like that in months. Not managed. Not held in place. Hugged. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered. "Your daddy made me promise not to tell you until after the funeral." "Tell me what?" She looked toward the workbench. There was an old metal lunchbox sitting there. Dad's lunchbox. The blue one with the dent in the side from when I dropped it off the loading dock at age 9. Beside it was a folded note in Dad's handwriting. My breath stopped. I knew that handwriting. Large, slanted, stubborn. The kind of handwriting that pressed through the paper because Dad never learned to hold a pen gently. Mrs. Whitaker pushed the note toward me. I unfolded it. Nora Bug. Only Dad called me that. My vision blurred immediately. "If you are reading this, I am gone, and I am sorry I didn't get brave sooner. I sat before my legs could fail. I need you to understand something. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not forgetting things because you are broken. Something has been happening in our house, and I should have stopped it sooner." My hand went to my mouth. Mrs. Whitaker sat across from me, silent. I kept reading. "Evan has been pushing me to sell the store. At first, I thought he was just ambitious. Then he started keeping you away from me. He told me you were tired. He told me you were confused. He told me I was upsetting you. But every time I asked for you, he said you didn't want to come." A sound left me, not a sob. Something smaller, worse, because I had begged to see Dad. And Evan had told me Dad needed rest. He told your mother the same thing, that you were pulling away, that grief was making you cold, that you didn't care about the store. No. My mother thought I didn't care. I started writing things down because my head wasn't right. Some days I woke up and couldn't remember breakfast. Some nights I drank tea, Evan said would calm me down, and slept 14 hours. I found out later my doctor never recommended anything like that. I looked up. Mrs. Whitaker's eyes were wet. "He was drugging Dad," I whispered. "We don't know everything she said, but your father knew enough to be scared." I looked back at the letter. I found pharmacy receipts in Evan's truck. I found copies of my signature. I found a speech he planned to give after my funeral. It said he would be taking over Bennett Home and Hardware at my request. I never requested that. My stomach twisted. He has your mother believing he is saving the family. He has Kelsey believing you are unstable. He has half the town believing he is the only person holding us together. But you are my daughter. You were here before him. You knew this door before he knew our last name. I built this place so my children would always have a door that opened. Not so one man could lock my daughter out and call it leadership." Tears fell onto the page. "There is more in the lunchbox. Helen will help you. Pastor Cole knows enough to keep quiet. Do not go home tonight. Evan and your mother planned a family meeting in the morning. They are going to ask you to sign papers. They will say it is only to help with bills. Don't sign anything. Most of all, don't let them make you small. You are not the shadow in this family. You are my girl. Love, Dad. I folded the note and pressed it to my chest. For months, I had believed Dad was too sick to notice me. But he had seen everything. He had been trapped too. And even while confused, frightened, and dying, he had tried to leave me a rope. Mrs. Whitaker opened the lunchbox. Inside were not dramatic legal files or complicated contracts. Just ordinary things. A pharmacy receipt, printed screenshots, a few handwritten notes, a flash drive, a stack of envelopes, and one old cassette recorder. Dad hated smartphones. He trusted buttons. Mrs. Whitaker pressed play. At first there was only static. Then Dad's voice filled the back room. Weak, scratchy, but unmistakably his. Today is March 3rd. Evan came by at 8:15, said Nora wants to sell. I asked him to put her on the phone. He said she was sleeping. I called her myself. Phone went straight to voicemail. That doesn't feel right. A click. Another recording. March 11th. Ruth says Nora hasn't visited because she can't handle seeing me sick. But Nora left me a voicemail crying, saying Evan told her I didn't want visitors. Somebody is lying to both of us. Another click. My father coughed for a long time. Then, March 28th. I found the papers Evan left on the kitchen table. He wants the house, the store building, and the rental duplex put under some new company name. Says it protects the family. I didn't work 40 years to protect my family from my own daughter. I closed my eyes. Every recording was small, ordinary, devastating. Not a secret empire, not a corporate war. Just my father sitting alone in his recliner, realizing the man we welcomed into our family was slowly moving the furniture of our lives, while everyone else kept thanking him for helping. Then headlights swept across the back room window. Mrs. Whitaker froze. I stopped breathing. The old gravel lot outside crunched under tires. A truck door opened, then closed. My phone lit up. I know you're at the store. Open the door. Mrs. Whitaker's face went white. Nora, she whispered. Another text. Don't make me come in through the front. The handle on the back door rattled. Once, twice. Then Evan's voice came from outside. Nora, sweetheart, I know you're scared. Open the door. Mrs. Whitaker reached for the recorder. I grabbed her wrist. No, I whispered. The handle rattled again. Harder. I'm not angry, Evan called. I just want to talk. Then his voice changed. Still calm, but colder. You have something that doesn't belong to you. My blood went cold. The key. He knew. He had followed me. Maybe not the whole time, but long enough. Mrs. Whitaker reached under the workbench and pressed something into my palm. Another key. Silver. Storage closet, she whispered. Now. I took Dad's lunchbox, the note, and the recorder, and slipped into the narrow storage closet behind the back room. Mrs. Whitaker shut the door just as the back entrance opened. I stood in darkness between furnace filters and boxes of cleaning supplies, one hand over my mouth. Evan had a key. Of course he had a key. He walked into my father's store like he owned it. Helen, he said. His voice was pleasant now. Too pleasant. Little late to be doing books. Mrs. Whitaker's voice trembled but held. Could say the same to you. I'm looking for my wife. She isn't here. A pause. Then Evan laughed softly. Don't lie to me. Footsteps crossed the back room. Slow. Measured. He was close enough that I could see his shadow under the closet door. I know Pastor Cole gave her something Evan said. Cal was confused at the end. You know that. He was writing things down, saying strange things. It would be very unfortunate if Nora got herself worked up over nonsense. Mrs. Whitaker said nothing. Evan's footsteps moved toward the workbench. Paper shifted. My heart slammed against my ribs. Had we left something out? The lunchbox was in my arms. The note was in my coat. The recorder was pressed against my stomach. Then Evan said something I would never forget. You're old, Helen. You should be careful. People fall in storage rooms all the time. I almost opened the door. Rage pushed up my throat like fire. Mrs. Whitaker answered before I could move. And some men think a soft voice makes a threat sound like concern. Silence. Then Evan laughed again. But this time there was no warmth in it. If Nora contacts you, call me. I'll pray for you, Mrs. Whitaker said. Don't waste your breath. The back door opened. Closed. His truck started. We waited until the sound disappeared. Only then did Mrs. Whitaker open the closet door. I stepped out shaking. Not with fear this time, with clarity. "He threatened you," I said. "Yes." "He has a key." "Yes." "How many keys does he have?" Mrs. Whitaker looked at me. "That depends how many doors your father didn't know he copied." That night I did not go home. I slept on the old cot in the storage room under a shelf of furnace filters, wrapped in Dad's spare flannel jacket. I barely slept. Every sound felt like Evan coming back. Every headlight outside made my body stiffen. But when morning came, something inside me had changed. I was still grieving, still scared, still shaking. But I was no longer confused. Grief is heavy. Fear is heavy. But clarity is sharp. At 7:02 a.m. I turned on my phone. 64 missed calls, 39 texts from Evan, 14 from my mother, 9 from Kelsey. Evan's last message was sent at 3:18 a.m. "You are making yourself look unstable. Come home before this gets worse." My mother's last message hurt worse. "Nora, please stop punishing Evan. He has done everything for this family." I stared at that sentence until my eyes burned. He has done everything for this family. What had I done? Sat beside Dad's hospital bed, cooked soup he couldn't eat, washed his sheets, balanced store invoices late at night before Evan took them off my plate, called doctors, canceled my own appointments because Dad needed rides, cried in the garage where no one could hear. But Evan had done the visible things, the speeches, the handshakes, the Facebook posts, the "I've got this" moments. And that was what my family chose to see. At 8:30 I went home. Not because I trusted Evan, because Dad had told me not to sign anything, and I needed to see what they had planned. The kitchen smelled like coffee and cinnamon rolls when I walked in. That almost made me laugh. My father had been buried less than 24 hours earlier, and my mother had baked cinnamon rolls because family meetings needed food. Evan stood at the counter in jeans and a sweater, pouring coffee into Dad's old mug. I stopped in the doorway. Dad's mug. The one that said, "Measure twice, cut once." Evan saw me looking and smiled. "There you are." He said it like I was a lost child. My mother rushed over first. "Oh, Nora." She hugged me stiffly. "You had us worried sick." Kelsey sat at the table, scrolling her phone. "Seriously," she said without looking up, "that was selfish." Selfish. I had hidden from the man who had followed me to my father's store and threatened an old woman, and my sister called me selfish. Evan came closer. He did not hug me. He studied my face. "Where did you sleep?" "At the store." His eyes flickered. Just once. Then the smile came back. "You slept at the store?" "Yes." "That's not normal, Nora." "No," I said, "none of this is normal." My mother sighed. "Please don't start." Evan set a mug of tea in front of me. Not coffee. Tea. The room went quiet in my mind. I could hear the refrigerator hum, the rain tapping against the kitchen window, Kelsey's fingernail clicking against her phone screen. Evan pushed the mug closer. "Drink something warm. You look pale." I wrapped both hands around it. I did not drink. Evan sat at the head of the table. Dad's chair. He had taken Dad's chair. My mother sat to his right. Kelsey sat to his left. There was one chair left for me. Not beside my mother. Not in my usual place near the window. At the far end, near the hallway. Like a guest. Like a problem. I sat down. Evan folded his hands. "Nora, we love you." Whenever a controlling person starts with love, listen carefully to what they ask you to surrender next. "We all know yesterday was difficult," he continued. "And last night showed us you're under more stress than we realized." Kelsey nodded. "You disappeared after Dad's funeral." I needed space. "You turned off your location," Evan said. "My location is not a leash." My mother gasped softly. Evan's expression hardened for half a second. Then he laughed gently. "See, this is what I mean. You're interpreting care as control." Care. The word tasted rotten. He reached into a cheap blue folder from the grocery store office aisle. Nothing dramatic. Nothing official looking. Just a folder any family could buy for $1.49 before trying to erase their daughter. He slid papers across the table. "I think the best thing we can do is simplify. Temporarily." I looked down. There were highlighted lines. Signature tabs. My name. "Bennett Home and Hardware has bills," Evan said. "The house has repairs. Your mother needs stability. We found a buyer who wants to keep the store open, at least for now. The offer is fair." "You found a buyer." "We found a solution," he corrected. Kelsey finally looked up. "Evan's been handling all this while you've been falling apart." My mother added, "Your father trusted him." "No," I said softly, "Dad did not." The room changed. Evan's eyes went still. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not signing anything today." My mother's mouth tightened. "Nora, please. This is why we didn't want to overwhelm you with details." Details. They had mistaken my silence for absence. Evan leaned back. His voice grew cooler. "Your father asked me to take care of the family." "Did he?" "Yes." "Then why didn't he tell me?" "Because he knew you couldn't handle it." There it was. Not concern. Not love. The real thought underneath. "You can't handle it. You need me. Sit down. Sign here. Drink the tea." Then he said the sentence that burned itself into me forever. "Your father loved you, Nora. But love and trust are two different things. He loved you like a daughter. He trusted me like a man." My mother looked down. Kelsey said nothing, and that silence told me how much Evan had already won. I looked at my mother. "Do you believe that?" She blinked. "Honey, I believe you've been through a lot." "That is not what I asked." Kelsey groaned. "God, Nora, don't turn this into a therapy session." Evan's voice cut in. "Enough!" One word, sharp enough to silence the room. Then he softened it with a smile. "Nora, no one is erasing you. We're trying to protect what Calvin built." I looked at Dad's mug in his hand. "You're drinking from his cup while selling his store." My mother whispered Nora. I stood. "I'm not signing." Evan rose too, slowly, carefully, like he was trying not to scare a wild animal. "That's your choice," he said. "But choices have consequences." My mother looked at him. "What does that mean?" Evan did not take his eyes off me. "It means if Nora refuses to cooperate, we may have to discuss whether she's emotionally able to make family decisions right now." There it was. The threat Dad warned me about. Not a lawsuit, not a complicated legal trick. Something simpler, more humiliating. A family deciding you are too broken to be heard. I picked up the tea mug and carried it to the sink. Evan watched every step. I poured it out. The sound of liquid hitting stainless steel seemed louder than thunder. Then I set the empty mug down. "I'm done drinking things you hand me." Kelsey stood. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm awake." I walked out before my voice could break. Behind me, Evan said, "Let her go. She'll come back when she calms down." But I heard what he was really saying. She always comes back. That afternoon, I did 3 things. First, I went to a clinic 2 towns over and asked for a basic screening. I told the nurse I had been unusually groggy, confused, and sleeping too long after drinking tea at night. Second, I called Ben. Mrs. Whitaker had given me his number. My older brother Ben had left town 3 years earlier after a terrible fight with Dad. At least that was the story Evan told. Ben had been struggling back then. Divorce, drinking, bad choices, money problems. Evan said Ben asked Dad for a large loan, got refused, and stormed out. Dad said almost nothing after that. Mother said Ben broke your father's heart. Kelsey said honestly, maybe it's better he's gone. Evan said some people only love family when there's money involved. I believed him. I hated myself for that now. Ben answered on the 4th ring. Nora. Hearing his voice cracked something open in me. I cried so hard I couldn't speak for a full minute. He didn't rush me. He just kept saying, I'm here, I'm not hanging up. When I finally told him Dad was gone, the silence on the other end sounded like a door closing slowly. "I tried to come," Ben said. "Evan told me you all didn't want me there." He lied. I figured. "Why didn't you call me?" "I did," he said. "Your number changed." My number had changed 18 months earlier. Evan said we were getting a better plan. "How much of my life did he reroute?" I whispered. Ben exhaled shakily. "Nora, listen to me. I'm driving there." "You don't have to." "Yes," he said. "I do." Third, I opened Facebook. I had not posted in weeks. Evan said social media made grief performative, but he had been posting. A photo of him beside Dad's recliner. Caption, "Honored to be trusted with carrying Calvin Bennett's legacy forward." Some men become fathers through marriage. Some become sons through service. 300 likes. Dozens of comments. "Cal was lucky to have you. You've been the rock. The store is in good hands." My name appeared nowhere. Not in the caption. Not in the photos. Not in the story of my own father's final months. Then I saw Kelsey's post. She had shared Evan's photo and written, "Blood doesn't always show up. Sometimes real family is the person who stays. Under it, someone commented, "Some daughters disappear when things get hard. Thank God for Evan." Another wrote, "Cal got the son he deserved in the end." I sat in the clinic parking lot, phone in my lap, and cried so hard I could barely breathe. Not because strangers misunderstood me, because my own sister had given them permission. That was the moment I realized Evan had not just stolen the store first. He had stolen my place in the family. And everyone had applauded. That night I stayed at Mrs. Whitaker's house. She made grilled cheese and tomato soup like I was 10 years old. At 9:30, Ben arrived. He looked thinner than I remembered, older, tired around the eyes. But when I opened the door, he did not hesitate. He pulled me into his arms and held on. "I'm sorry," I said into his jacket. "No," he said. "Don't do that, not yet. We've got time for sorry later." We sat at Mrs. Whitaker's kitchen table until after midnight. Ben told me everything. How Evan called him 3 years ago and said Dad was done with him. How Evan claimed I was embarrassed by him. How Ben drove to the store anyway and Evan met him outside. How Evan stood in front of the side door and said, "Your father is finally at peace without your chaos." Ben believed maybe Dad really said it, because shame is easy to weaponize when someone already carries it. "I was drinking then," Ben said. "Not like before, but enough to think maybe I deserved it." "You didn't. Neither did you." Mrs. Whitaker placed Dad's lunchbox between us. Ben touched it like it was a living thing. When we played Dad's recording, Ben covered his eyes and turned away. I watched my brother hear our father choose him again after years of believing he had been thrown out. Then Ben said the sentence that made Mrs. Whitaker cry. He didn't just steal a store. He stole 3 years of Dad thinking I didn't love him. That was Evan's real talent. He did not just take money. He separated people, one misunderstanding at a time. One unanswered call, one changed number, one carefully repeated sentence. By morning, the clinic called. Nothing dramatic enough for a movie. No exotic poison, no impossible lab report, but enough. The nurse said there were high levels of sedatives in my system consistent with repeated exposure. She asked if I had been taking sleep medication. I said no. Her voice changed. "Do you feel safe at home?" That question should be simple. Yes or no. But when home has become a place where everyone calls your fear inconvenient, the answer gets stuck in your throat. "No," I said finally. And once I said it, I couldn't unsay it. On Friday afternoon, the real trap revealed itself. Not in a lawyer's office, not in some dramatic envelope. On Facebook, Evan had created an event. Calvin Bennett, Memorial Supper and Legacy Announcement, at Bennett Home and Hardware. That night, he invited family employees, church friends, customers, vendors, and half the town. The post had a photo of Evan standing in front of the store with Dad's old apron over one shoulder. The caption read, "Honoring Calvin's final wish, keeping his legacy alive through steady hands." Steady hands. Not my hands. His. I called Mrs. Whitaker. She answered on the first ring. "He moved it up," I said. "I know." "What?" "I found the printed speech in the office trash this morning." She read the last line to me. "With Ruth Bennett's blessing and in honor of Calvin's wishes, I will guide this transition as the new managing partner." Managing partner. My father had been in the ground 5 days. Evan was already giving himself a title. Pastor Cole wanted to cancel the supper. Ben wanted to confront Evan in the parking lot. Mrs. Whitaker wanted to call every customer in town and tell them the truth. But Dad's voice stayed in my mind. "Stand still. Tell the truth. Let him be loud." So we let Evan have his night. We let him set up the tables. We let him print the programs. We let him arrange a framed photo of Dad beside the register. We let him stand under the buzzing red sign and greet people like he was the host of a life he had not built. At 6:15, the store was full. People brought deviled eggs, baked ziti ham, potato salad, brownies, sweet tea, paper plates, and that strange, small-town kindness that can feel both comforting and suffocating. Everyone hugged my mother. Everyone thanked Evan. Some hugged me too, but carefully like I might shatter. I heard one woman whisper, "Poor thing. She's not taking it well." I almost laughed. No, I was taking it very well. That was what scared Evan. At 6:45, Kelsey started a Facebook Live from the front of the store. She said it was for relatives who couldn't come. That was Evan's idea. He wanted witnesses. He wanted applause. He wanted the town to watch him inherit my father's story in real time. He forgot one thing. A room full of witnesses can turn into a room full of truth. At 7, Kelsey played the slideshow. Photos of Dad fishing, Dad at the store, Dad with my mother. Dad at Christmas. Dad holding Kelsey's first baby. Then a photo of Evan and Dad standing in front of the store. Then another. Then another. The last year of Dad's life appeared to contain Evan in every frame. I was in 3 photos. 2 were group shots. In one, I was half cut off at the edge. Ben was not there at all. My mother cried softly. Kelsey wiped her eyes like she had created something beautiful. Evan put his hand over his heart. I stood near the extension cords and felt something inside me settle, not break. Settle! When the slideshow ended, Evan walked to the front. He tapped the microphone Pastor Cole used for outdoor church events. Can everyone hear me? People quieted. Kelsey's live stream was still running. Evan smiled. That warm, humble smile. The one that had fooled all of us. I want to thank everyone for loving Calvin Bennett. He was more than my father-in-law. In many ways, he was the father I never had. A few people nodded. My mother cried harder. I looked at Ben standing near the storage room door. His jaw tightened. Evan continued. These past few months have been hard. On Ruth, on Kelsey, on all of us. Especially Nora. There it was. He turned toward me. His eyes were soft for the room. Hard for me. My wife has been carrying grief in a way that has made decision-making difficult. And that's okay. Family steps in when someone needs support. Family steps in. I could feel people looking at me, pitying me, measuring me. Evan pulled a paper from his jacket pocket. Before Calvin passed, he and I had many conversations about the future of Bennett Home and Hardware. He knew times were changing. He knew the store needed new leadership. And he asked me to make sure his family didn't drown trying to hold on to the past. My mother nodded faintly. Kelsey whispered amen. Evan lifted his chin. So tonight, with Ruth's blessing, we are beginning the process of transitioning the store to new ownership while keeping Calvin's spirit alive. The room murmured. Some surprised, some sad, some accepting. Because Evan said it like the decision had already been made. That was his trick. He spoke in finished sentences so no one remembered they could object. Then Pastor Cole stood. Evan, he said calmly. Before you go on, Nora has something to say. Every head turned. Evan's smile did not move, but I saw the warning in his eyes. Don't. I walked to the front. For a second, my legs wanted to shake. Then I touched the counter. Dad's counter. The worn place near the register where his hand used to rest. And I remembered. This was not Evan's room. This was not Evan's story. This was my father's store. I took the microphone. My father did leave instructions, I said. Evan laughed softly. Nora, sweetheart, maybe now isn't. I turned to him. Don't call me sweetheart while you're lying to my father's friends. The room went silent. My mother whispered my name. Kelsey froze behind her phone. Evan's face changed. Just enough. Nora, he said carefully, you are upset. No. I was upset when I thought Dad pushed Ben away. I was upset when I thought Dad didn't want to see me. I was upset when my own mother believed I abandoned him because you told her I did. My mother went pale. What? I looked at her. He told Dad I didn't want to visit. He told me Dad didn't want visitors. He changed my phone plan. He blocked Ben from coming inside the store. He made himself the bridge between all of us, then charged toll on both sides. Kelsey snapped, That's insane. Ben stepped out from the storage room. No, he said, it's true. My mother made a sound like the air had left her body. Ben. He stood there in his work jacket, eyes, red hands open at his sides. I came back last Christmas. Evan told me Dad would call the police if I walked inside. That's not true, Evan said immediately. Ben looked at him. You said your father is finally at peace without your chaos. I remember every word because I drank for 3 days after. The room shifted. Not fully. Not yet. Evan lifted both hands. Everyone, please. This is grief. This is exactly what I was worried about. I looked at Pastor Cole. He pressed play on the cassette recorder. Dad's voice filled the store. Weak, scratchy, alive enough to make people gasp. March 11th. Ruth says Nora hasn't visited because she can't handle seeing me sick. But Nora left me a voicemail crying, saying Evan told her I didn't want visitors. Somebody is lying to both of us. My mother gripped the table. The recording continued. March 28th. I found the papers Evan left on the kitchen table. He wants the house, the store building, and the rental duplex put under some new company name. Says it protects the family. I didn't work 40 years to protect my family from my own daughter. Evan moved toward the recorder. Pastor Cole stepped in front of it. Not aggressively, just enough. Evan stopped. For the first time since I had known him, he looked uncertain. Then angry. Real angry. Not the controlled kind. Nora, he said low enough that only the front rows heard clearly, you have no idea what you're doing. I lifted the microphone. I know exactly what I'm doing. Do you? He snapped. Because you can barely pay a phone bill without crying. You think you can run a store? You think these people are going to trust you with payroll, inventory, repairs, insurance vendors? His voice rose. The microphone caught every word. Kelsey's live stream kept running. Evan pointed toward Dad's picture. Your father knew what you were. He loved you, Nora, but he didn't trust you. He loved you like a daughter. He trusted me like a man. The room froze. Even the old refrigerator seemed to quiet. Evan realized too late what he had said. He looked at Kelsey's phone, at the microphone, at the faces around him. Then he forced a laugh. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. No, I said, it came out honest. He turned on me. You want honesty. Fine. This store is dying. Your father was sentimental. Your mother is tired. Kelsey has her own family. Ben is a liability. And you, he stepped closer. You are a woman who still needs written instructions to reset the thermostat. A few people flinched. I didn't. And yet I said Dad left the key to me. I held up the green key. Evan's face darkened. He left me his recordings, his notes, his warnings, his truth. Not because I know everything, not because I am fearless, but because I loved this place when there was nothing to gain from loving it. My voice shook then. I let it. I know which customers Dad carried through winter. I know which employee's kid needed cleats. I know which farmers pay late because milk checks don't come when they're supposed to. I know where Dad hid the good drill bits because he didn't trust people who bought cheap screws. I know the coffee pot burns after 2 hours and the back door sticks when it rains. I looked at Evan. You know what this place is worth if you sell it. I know what it is worth if you don't. The room was silent. Then Evan smiled again. Smaller now. Meaner. You are embarrassing yourself. Then he reached for the paper cup on the table and poured tea from the same thermos he had brought from home. He walked it to me in front of everyone. Drink this, he said. You're shaking. The room went colder than winter. I stared at the cup. So did my mother. So did Kelsey. So did Pastor Cole. Evan's hand stayed extended. The perfect husband. The caring man. The same sentence. The same trap. I took the cup. For 1 second, he looked relieved. Then I set it on the counter beside Dad's recorder. No, I said. I don't drink things you hand me anymore. His jaw tightened. I looked at the room. And for anyone wondering why a nurse asked me 2 days ago if I was taking sleep medication, I told her no. My mother covered her mouth. Kelsey lowered her phone. I continued. She said my blood showed repeated exposure to sedatives. Evan laughed. That is absurd. Mrs. Whitaker stepped forward and placed a pharmacy receipt on the counter. Then another. Then another. All from the last 3 months. Paid in cash. My mother whispered Evan. He rounded on her. Don't start, Ruth. And there it was again. How quickly care turned to command when he lost control. My mother stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. You told me she was unstable, she said. She is. You told me she didn't come. She didn't. Dad's voice came from the recorder again. Pastor Cole had pressed play. Ruth says Nora hasn't visited because she can't handle seeing me sick. But Nora left me a voicemail crying, saying Evan told her I didn't want visitors. Somebody is lying to both of us. My mother's knees nearly gave out. Kelsey put her hand over her mouth. The livestream comments were moving fast now. Names from town. Church ladies, old customers, employees, people who had been watching Evan's perfect speech seconds earlier were now watching him unravel. Evan saw it. His face changed. You need to turn that off, he told Kelsey. She didn't move. Kelsey, he snapped, turn it off. She looked at him crying. Number. That one word broke something in him. You stupid little... He stopped himself. Too late. The room heard enough. The livestream heard enough. My mother stood slowly. Her face was gray. I thought I was protecting your father from stress, she whispered. But I was protecting you from the truth. Evan pointed at her. Ruth, sit down. Number. It was barely a whisper, but it landed like thunder. She walked to the counter, picked up Dad's mug, and held it against her chest. You don't get to use his cup anymore. Evan stared at her, then at me, then at the room. The applause he came for had turned into witnesses. Mr. Jenkins from the feed aisle stood first. Cal gave me credit when my barn roof came down, he said. If Nora keeps the store open, I'm buying here. Mrs. Alvarez from the bakery stood next. Cal helped my husband find work when nobody else would. My family will buy from Nora. Tyler, one of Dad's part-time employees, raised his hand. I'm not quitting if Nora runs it. Another employee said me neither. Then another. And another. Evan's face tightened. You people have no idea how business works. I smiled then. Not because I was happy. Because I finally understood something. He had wanted the store, but what he really wanted was the room, the trust, the applause. And he was losing all of it. At that exact moment, a man in a navy coat stepped forward from the back. I recognized him. Mr. Callahan, the buyer Evan had been courting. He owned 3 discount supply stores in the next county. He looked at Evan, then at me. I was told this was a clean family transition, he said. Evan's face drained. It is. Mr. Callahan looked at the recorder, the receipts, the people, the live stream. No, he said, it isn't. Then he folded the offer packet in half. I'm out. A quiet sound moved through the store. Not cheering. Not yet. Something better. The sound of Evan losing the thing he came to claim. Evan grabbed his coat from a chair. This family is unbelievable, he said. I carried you people for months. Ben stepped in front of the door. You didn't carry us, you separated us. Move. Ben did not move. You didn't just steal a store, Ben said. You stole 3 years of my father thinking I didn't love him. Evan's face twisted. I don't owe you anything. No, I said. But you owe this family the keys. Evan laughed. You think you can kick me out? I reached for Dad's old coffee mug in my mother's hands, then looked at Evan. You already took enough from this family. You don't get the mug. You don't get the chair. You don't get the store. And you don't get to tell our story anymore. For a second, no one breathed. Then Kelsey walked forward, still holding her phone. She was crying hard now. I posted about you, she said to Evan. I told people you were the real family. Evan's lip curled. So delete it. I already did. He stared at her. And I posted the recording. That was the first moment Evan looked truly afraid. Not because he cared about truth. Because his image was bleeding in public. He pushed past Ben and walked out. The bell above the front door rang once. No one followed him. Outside, his truck started. Then tires crunched over gravel. Then he was gone. For almost 10 seconds, the store stayed silent. Then my mother started crying. Not delicate funeral crying. Real crying. Ugly. Breathless. The kind that comes when a person finally sees the damage they helped cause. I failed you, she said to me. I leaned against the counter. Yes. She closed her eyes. I did not soften it. For years I had softened the truth so other people could swallow it. Not anymore. I wanted to believe him, she whispered. He made everything sound manageable. Your father was sick. Ben was gone. You were crying all the time. Evan seemed so steady. Steady is not the same as good. I know that now. I looked around the store. The casseroles. The folding chairs. The receipts on the counter. Dad's lunchbox. The green key in my hand. I love you, Mom, I said. But I'm not going to make your guilt comfortable. She cried harder. I let her. That was another thing I learned. You can love people and still let them feel the weight of what they did. Kelsey came to me next. I don't know how to apologize for what I posted. Then don't start with the post, I said. Start with why you believed it. She nodded. That was enough for that moment. Later that night, after most people left, Ben and I stood outside under the red sign. Rainwater dripped from the awning. The crossed-out window sign still said, "We still cut keys. Ask for Evan." Ben looked at it. Want me to scrape it off? No, I said. I went inside, found Dad's thick black marker, and wrote underneath it, "Ask for Nora." Ben laughed through his tears. It was the first time I had heard my brother laugh in years. 2 weeks later, Evan was gone from the house. Not in a dramatic scene with flashing cameras. Not with one perfect ending wrapped in a bow. Real life rarely gives you that. He left behind an empty side of the closet, unpaid bills, angry voicemails, and a town full of people who suddenly remembered every uncomfortable thing they had ignored. There were investigations. There were statements. There were consequences. But I will not make Evan the center of the story anymore. He would have liked that. Men like him love becoming the headline. This story belongs to the people he tried to make small. Ben moved back slowly, not into the house, not all at once. He started by fixing the loading dock, then the roof leak, then the old saw in the back room. One morning I found him and Mom sitting at the break room table, not talking, just drinking coffee from paper cups. That was how healing started in our family, not with speeches, with two people sitting in the same room without running. Kelsey wrote a new post. Not dramatic, not perfect, just honest. I believed the wrong person because he made the wrong story easier to accept. I hurt my sister. I helped erase her from a season of grief that belonged to her too. I am sorry. I didn't like it. Then I did. Then I cried. Then I kept running the store. That is the thing nobody tells you about taking your life back. It is not one big powerful moment. It is paperwork, payroll, changing passwords, learning which vendor delivers late, finding out the roof repair cost twice what you hoped, telling customers no, we're not closing, standing in the same aisles where you were humiliated and choosing to keep showing up. Some days I felt strong. Some days I cried in Dad's office with the door locked. Some days I still heard Evan's voice in my head. You can't handle this. And on those days I answered out loud, watch me. 6 months after the funeral, we changed the sign. Not much. Dad would have hated anything flashy. We kept Bennett Home and Hardware in the same red letters. But underneath where someone had crossed out Dad's name and written Evans, we painted a new line. Family is not who takes the keys. Family is who keeps the door open. On the first Saturday after the new sign went up, Pastor Cole came by with a box of donuts. Mrs. Whitaker sat at the register pretending she was retired. Ben replaced the cracked window near the garden aisle. Kelsey brought her kids to sweep the floor and complained that child labor laws probably applied. Mom stood by the coffee pot nervous, watching me like she was still learning how to be my mother again. And me, I stood behind Dad's counter with the green key on a chain around my neck, not because I needed a symbol, because sometimes you keep one anyway. A woman came in that morning needing a key copied. She was maybe 30, tired eyes, wedding ring, 2 kids tugging at her sleeves. Her hands shook when she handed me the key. Sorry, she said. Long week. I looked at her face. I knew that kind of tired. The kind that comes from being told you are difficult when you are actually afraid. So I cut her key. Then I cut a second one and slid it across the counter. No charge, I said. She blinked. Why? I smiled. Everyone needs a spare door. She stared at me for a second. Then her eyes filled with tears. That was when I understood what Dad had really left me. Not a store. Not a house. Not a name painted on a sign. He left me a way to become myself again. Evan wanted the building. He wanted the title. He wanted the applause. He wanted to be remembered as the man who saved the Bennett family. But legacy is not the story a loud man tells into a microphone. Legacy is what remains when the room finally hears the truth. My father's legacy was not lumber paint rental property or a cash register. It was the widows he trusted, the sons he forgave, the daughters he tried to protect even when he was running out of time. And my dignity, that was not something Evan gave me. So it was not something he could take. If you are listening to this and someone in your life keeps calling control, care keeps calling your fear drama, keeps making you smaller so they can look steady, I hope you remember this. You do not need everyone to believe you at first. You do not need to scream louder than the person who hurt you. You only need one true thing, one key, one voice, one moment where you stop drinking the tea, stop signing the papers, stop apologizing for being awake. And when that moment comes, stand still. Tell the truth. Let them be loud. The right people will hear you. And the wrong ones, they were never your family to begin with. So tell me in the comments if you were. Nora, would you have exposed Evan in front of the whole town? Or would you have handled it quietly? And have you ever seen someone get erased in their own family while everybody praised the person doing it? I read every comment. Because sometimes one person's story is the spare key someone else needs.